Well, hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my shop. If you're new here, happen to be new here, my name's Brian. Welcome. Today I want to show you guys how you can build your own SYS AZ drawers using some scrap wood or some 3/4 inch material you can get from the big box stores and some 1/4 inch plywood. Really simple, really cheap compared to the SYS AZ drawers that are $50 a piece. So I don't know if you guys saw my previous videos, but I have 4 of these new Generation 3 sustainer organizers. So they're just kind of hanging out here on my desk. I can't really access them without taking them off. So I want to build just a basic cabinet carcass. I'm going to install some 14-inch full extension drawer slides, and I'm going to make my own drawer shelf type thing. And I want to show you guys how to do that using basic, machinery. I'm not going to be using a domino, which I typically would be doing, because I know a lot of you guys don't have dominoes, and that's okay. You don't need them. They're just, they're an exotic type tool. So I'm not going to be using the domino. I'm just going to be screwing and gluing the joints together. So with that, guys, I just wanted to show you you can do this for really cheap. The only thing it's really going to cost you, again, is a little bit of material and your time, which, depending on what you do, might be more valuable to buy the SYS AZ drawers. But it's just an example of what you guys can do with some basic tools. So with that, guys, I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna build a little SYS port thing for these 4 sustainers on the cheap. So hope you guys enjoy. Take care. Okay, so I'm gonna start to plane all of these down to probably 7/8 inch thick. I think that'll work out just fine. I'm going to do you guys a favor and cut the volume way down, because this thing is about as loud as standing behind an F-16 at full afterburner. So it'll blow your ears apart. So I'm going to turn the volume down and get to working on thinning these down to about 7/8. Okay guys, so I got all of my scrap pieces of ash planed down to the thickness that I want. Now I'm going to rip a 2-inch strip. Now that's kind of arbitrary number, okay? So you can do 1.5 inch, 2.5 inches. I'm just picking 2 inches to have as the perimeter size of my pull-out shelf. So it can be whatever you really want. I'm going with 2 inches. So I'm gonna rip down everything that I've got and we'll go from there. So guys, here's how I'm going to measure how big to make this this drawer slash shelf. If you guys have followed any videos of mine, you know that I really prefer to not have to measure whenever I don't need to. So I'm just going to set this up dry fit and make a mark to know exactly how long to make the front and the back and the 2 sides. So this is the back, this is the front, and remember the front and the back pieces of a drawer always go inside the 2 sides. So I'm going to place the front right up against flush with the front of this sustainer, and I'm going to get a side piece. I'm going to put it on the outside of the front, and I'm going to get a square, and I'm going to square this corner up. Okay, so now I know that I've got a perfect 90 degree corner right here, and these can fit pretty tight. So I'm going to grab another piece and I'm going to put it in the back. So now I'm going to make a mark, and this is my mark that's going to be on the side of the shelf that I'm making. Okay, so I'm going to label it left side. So now I know where I've got a little mark right here. This distance from here to here, from this line to the end, is going to be my 2 side links for every single drawer that I'm going to build. Now for the front and the back, I'm just going to pretty much do the same thing. Make sure I'm 90. And I'm going to make a mark of where I need to make my cut for the front and the back. And this, I'm going to label this front and back. So now I did that with I did that whole thing without measuring a single thing, and I find that to be more accurate if you're actually using, you know, lining everything up with how you want it to fit and then making your mark versus trying to use the tape and, you know, counting the 16th to the inch. I don't mess with any of that if I can. So now I know I need to cut 16 pieces of this length for the front and the back. So let's go get this set up on the miter saw and get to cutting lots of pieces. So I'm going to start cutting the front, and I've got my little homemade stop, but I don't think it's going to work on this piece. Well, it might. And guys, these Tenryu Silencer blades for the Kapex are absolutely amazing. I can't recommend these things highly enough. I personally think they're better than the Festool version. Okay, so I've got all the components of my drawer cut except for the base. And what I'm going to do now is, I hope you guys can see this this 1/4 inch line here. That represents my dado that I'm going to cut on my table saw. To do that, I'm going to swap out the blade that's currently in my table saw, which is an alternating tooth saw blade. And I'm going to replace it with this rip blade that is a flat tooth. So what this flat tooth is going to do is create a flat bottom to my dado. It's not that big of a deal. You could always cut it with a regular alternating tooth saw blade and then go back in with a really small chisel and clean out the bottom. But if you use one of these rip blades, and I use these Freud rip blades all the time, I love them. I'll leave a little link down below. But they just make cutting these little dados really, really simple and easy. So I'm going to cut a dado around the inside perimeter of all of these sides. So picture, a dado here, a dado here, a dado here, and a dado here. And then when I go to put my drawer together, you'll see why I do that, because that's where I'm going to slide in my 1/4 inch piece of plywood that's going to act as my base for my sustainer to sit on. So I'm going to get this saw blade put in my table saw and get these dados cut. Now I'm going to cut the dado 1/4 inch deep. So I'm going to be going 1/4 inch in. Again, that number's kind of arbitrary. You can do 1/8 inch, you can do 3/8, you can do a 1/2 inch, however far you want to cut it. I'm just using 1/4 inch because I'm not putting a whole lot of weight, and 1/4 inch is more than adequate. And it's easier to do the math when you're going to figure out how wide to cut your plywood, your 1/4 inch plywood base. So 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch is a 1/2 inch, and that's just easier in my head math when I go have to figure out how wide I need to cut the plywood. That's the only reason. So I finally get to redeem myself, guys. So I made a video on all of my favorite woodpecker's tools, and I said my Paolini pocket rule is one of my more favorites. And I got quite a few comments that I forgot to talk about the most useful feature, and that is the fact that this sliding shoulder comes off, and you can put it here in this center, in this cutout of the rule, and it acts as a base. So it'll kind of hold it up, keep it flat. And I've had to explain, you know, apologize to quite a few people that, yeah, I forgot that part of the review. So here you go, guys. The Paolini pocket roll, you can take that sliding shoulder off and put it in this cutout, and it'll stand your roll up for you. So now I'm going to use this to measure 1/4 of an inch height on my table saw. So there you go, guys. Finally got to come around to redeem well, maybe redeem myself. Okay, so got all the dados cut, as you can see, and all the front and the back and the sides of my drawer. Now we got to do a little bit of measuring, but it's not too tricky. So I'm going to kind of assemble it to how it's going to be put together. And really, for the front and the back sides, all you have to do is measure, you know, exactly how wide it is, which I'm looking at 15 and 5/8. So I'm going to take 15 and 5/8 and add a 1/2 inch, because I've got to go into these sides at least no more than 1/4 of an inch on each side, because that's how deep my dado is. So I'm going to take the width of the front, add a 1/2 inch, and then I'll probably back it down about 2/16 of an inch just to make the plywood slide in easy. You don't really have to worry with plywood, you know, expanding or contracting, because it's plywood. So just subtract about 2/16 of an inch just so you can get it to slide in. And the same for the depth of the plywood. So you're going to take a measurement from the inside. So you're going to take a measurement from the inside of this corner to the inside of this corner, and then you're going to add, from me, I'm going to add a 1/2 of an inch and then back down 2/16 of an inch. So whatever this measurement is here, add a 1/2 inch for the 1/4 of an inch dado, 1/4 of an inch dado, and then subtract 2/16 of an inch, just to give me a little bit of wiggle room so everything fits together and I'm not fighting that plywood once I get it in here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the plywood cut now, and we're going to screw some holes, glue it up, and get it clamped, and call it a day. Alright, so as you can see here, now I've got the 1/4 inch plywood base kind of just dry fit in this, just to make sure everything lined up good. So I'm going to take it apart just to show you guys kind of how it fits in. So I mean, it's pretty much, it's pretty simple. So I'm going to put this back and show you guys what I'm going to do next. So I'm just going to go ahead and start to pre-drill some holes on the outside of these two side pieces, get my countersinks drilled in, and then we're going to glue this up and put some screws in and call it a day for one of these, and then I'll build the other 3. And I think I'm going to use a 1/4 inch roundover bit for the top portion of all of these drawers. But so I'm just going to set this up and get my countersink holes drilled out, and we'll glue it up and go from there. These little Festool countersink bits, they're expensive just like everything else Festool, but I can promise you guys it's the best that I've used as far as countersink bits. They stay sharp, they clear out the debris really fast, and they're just overall really, really good. So sorry about that, guys. A little bit of technical difficulty. I lost a few minutes of footage there, but anyway, we're back to here. So I'm putting together the sides now. So pretty much how I do everything. With 90 degrees, I use my woodpecker's squaring clamps, And I'm just going to use wood glue and 1.5" No. 6 square head screws to attach these guys. So this is end grain, so the glue is just really not going to help a whole lot, but I still like to put a little bit on it, just for good measure. Okay, so that's how I put these together. This ash is really hard wood, so I went ahead and I didn't pre-drill the front and the back. That's what I was using this bigger drill for, is to pre-drill, help those screws get in there a little bit better. So here is your sustainer cart cabinet. So that's just going to sit in there just like that. So now I'm going to build 3 more of these and show you guys how to put it in a carcass. Thanks. Okay, everyone, so I've got all 4 of my little drawers built. Pretty straightforward build, nothing crazy about it. I've set up my little Rockler mini benchtop router table type thing, which, guys, honestly, I use 95% of the time. I hardly ever pull out my bigger router table. It's just kind of cumbersome and bulky and kind of a pain to use, so I use this most of the time, and surprisingly, the dust collection is absolutely amazing on this thing. I don't know how they did it, but it's a lot cleaner than my big router table. But anyway, I am using just a little Freud 1/4 inch round over bit, and I'm going to round over the top edges of all of these drawers just to give it a little, smoother feel. Added a little flair to it, I guess. So I'm going to get that done, and then we'll start to build the carcass to put these things in. Okay guys, so we are on to building the carcass for these 4 drawers, which is nothing special. It's just a square box. The only thing to note is it is 14 inches deep. So I just had a 4x8 sheet of MDF. I ripped a 14-inch strip down it. And then I laid the drawer box on top of that strip. And I got 2 of my slides and I put it right up against the shelf, made a mark. That's how I know how wide to cut top and the bottom of the box. To figure out the height of the box, guys, all I did was I took, because I want about a 1/4 inch space in between each shelf, so I took 1/4 inch plywood, laid it down on the bottom, got my drawer, put it on top, got another piece of 1/4 inch plywood, got another drawer, put it on top, another piece of plywood, put it on top, and so forth, till I got all 4 drawers. And then I laid, this is obviously a little crooked because I didn't put a big enough sheet to show you guys, but you get the idea. And then I got a piece of my 14-inch ripped strip of MDF, put it up against the side, and I made a mark where I need to cut it. That's how I determined the height. So again, didn't use a tape measure at all, and it probably is going to end up to be a better fit than if I tried. So let's build the carcass. Okay, so we are on to installing the door slides. I'm not going to go into great detail on this. I did that on the Sysport build, but it's going to be the same premise as I've always done. So I'm just going to put a couple of sheets of 1/4 inch plywood down here. I'm going to put my drawer slides on top of that, drill them in, and I'm going to make these drawer slides flush to the edge. I might come back in later and put some trim around this, but I'm just going to line all of these slides up flush with the edge of this. So. And again, I'm just using some 5/8 inch coarse head, pan head MDF screws to get them to hold in pretty tight. So I'm going to get this in and show you guys what it looks like. Okay, guys, well, we're done with it. You probably saw toward the end of that last clip that things don't always work out the way that you envision them to work out. So I had a little bit of a fitment issue with these. I had to reposition the drawer runners on the actual drawers themselves because they were sitting up too high. So I had to take them all out and reposition them to get these things to fit. So, you know, just goes to show that at least for me, hardly any project I do actually works 100% correctly the first time. So I just sat back, thought about how I could fix it, and turns out the easiest solution was just to reposition the drawer runners on the shelf. So anyway, I think it's a pretty good little deal to store all these new sustainer organizers. So, you know, with these full extensions, I can pull it all the way out and actually access the contents of this. So I think this is going to be real helpful for me. And again, you know, having these full extensions really help compared to the Festool rail system where you have to pull the sustainer out all the way. It's good for, you know, storage, but not so good for when stuff that you use a lot, and all this small hardware and little trinkets that I use pretty much on a daily basis. I wanted to be able to access it easily, and building this myself probably saved me, I don't know, $200. It is made out of MDF, but I don't know if you guys have noticed the price of lumber these days. Even plywood seems like double than what I'm used to paying. So right now, MDF is the way that I build shop furniture because it's the cheapest, the most stable, and the most readily available. So anyway, guys, that's it. That's just a real simple DIY way to make your Festool drawers. Instead of spending $50 per SYS AZ, you can buy your own. So anyway, guys, hope that was fun. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, but this is what I got for you guys now. So anyway, hope you enjoyed, and take care. Thanks.